However, my overall experience of coming to America has been extremely positive, and I'm very grateful because almost everybody else except these few folks that really welcome me with their own open arms. I mean, imagine I couldn't speak English. I did not know the culture, language. I have no social background, and I have no money. But it is America, the country that gave me the opportunity to work hard and to realize my dream. So I think the people from around the world, like myself, many immigrants and refugees, and the people put their lives sometimes on the line so they can come here. It's because the bedrock of this country, which is freedom, guaranteed by Constitution, but also later on, I found Christ in my life, and the other cornerstone of America is the Bible.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You describe yourself as a scientific-minded atheist. When did you start to shift, or when did those questions come? What were you in China? Were you in the States? Tell us kind of those first moments, if you will, and then let's probe into the story.
I was obviously not born as a Christian. I was born as an atheist, and I came to America as an atheist, just like the Chinese student in the movie, the book and the movie, God's Not There, written by our mutual friends, Dr. Rice Brooks. And just like that student, that student life is inspired by my life story in the movie, God's Not There. So I came to this country. I was not interested in anything else except science, because I, for all my life, finally had the opportunity to study science. I was not going to be distracted by anything else. But then after the PhD program, PhD degree in laser physics, and then I got my, the second doctorate degree program, an MD at Harvard. It was in a study of medicine. In fact, in a study of the human eye, that's the seed of eventually become a believer was started. I was studying the human eye, and because I wanted to become a laser eye surgeon, since I had the laser background PhD, if I studied MD and medicine and particularly eye, I could be a very unique laser eye surgeon who knows medicine and also laser technology, which are very few in the world who has both degrees among laser eye surgeons. So I was studying this human eye, and something became clear and clear to me that it's interesting that in our human brain, all of us, in each of our head, half of the brain neurons, half are involved in vision. So that the vision is disproportionately important for human survival than almost any other senses, touching, speaking, hearing. So because so much neurons involved in the vision signal capturing, processing, interpretation, and it quickly became clear to me that with a scientific background, PhD in laser physics, and I realized that it is just impossible that the atheist worldview would hold. That means how could all these trillions of cells that combine themselves form a functional eye in a short span of 9 months, 10 months during the a child during the pregnancy for a child. So there's just so many things can go wrong that most of us should be born blind, but yet most of us are born with a sight. We can see. So I started asking a professor this question. I said, how could all this complicated eye part, neurons and photoreceptors that form in such a short period of time, which is such a near perfection, and out of random? So I kept on pestering him with these questions that basically my worldview, atheist worldview, was in crisis. I could not answer a basic important question like human eye structure. So finally he took me out for lunch and he said, Ming, what's across the street? I said, that's a car. He said, what's the difference between a car and a human eye? I said, human eye is a lot more complicated. He said, okay, can you imagine how a random piece of metal on the street assemble itself into a car? I said, no way. Then he leaned over, he said, how about human eye? And so right there, he basically just opened a window in my life. making me realize that the reason the human eye being so complicated but yet can form nearly so perfectly nearly every time is because it is not formed out of randomness that atheist worldview will hold, but it was formed with a specific purpose, and that purpose is vision. So there's a designer, there's a creator behind it all. And of course, going from that, realizing there's a creator, to eventually become a Christian who realized that the creator has a name in Jesus Christ. Christ died for our sin at the cross. And, that's a long process, which was described in my autobiography book, which I have a copy, called From Darkness to Sight. And it's called From Darkness to Sight because it's not just those blind orphan children that our foundation being able to help over the decades, their remarkable journey from darkness to sight, but also how these kids, their courage, have also inspired me to come from my own darkness to light spiritually.
That's a fascinating title, especially because you're an eye surgeon, from literal darkness to physically seen, but spiritual darkness to spiritual sight. You're obviously playing on that. Let me take a couple steps back on your story. We won't be able to go into the depth, obviously, in your book, and I hope folks will pick that up. But it was Darwin who famously said the design in the eye made him shudder. And he and later thinkers like Dawkins kind of point towards these simpler eyes that exist in other organisms all the way up towards the most complex human eye. What convinces you that there couldn't be kind of a step-by-step, incremental, naturalistic explanation for the eye, and that some kind of creator is required?
Great question. The fact that Darwin himself, his theory of evolution, the Achilles tendon of his theory, the weakest point, is the human eye, that he readily admitted in his book, that human eye is so complicated that this evolutionary viewpoint, it just doesn't hold in the context of human eye, particularly how the eye could form. The fact that I discovered practically the same thing as Darwin did, 200 years later in modern time when I was studying the human eye, shows that at the end of the day, as Dr. White's books always have been advocating with his God's Not Dead lecture tours throughout the United States and the world, and many of those lecture tours that he, fortunately, that I was involved and he invited me to talk about the scientific aspect. We play tag team. I talk about more science and he talk about more scripture, spiritual. That his premises is be open-minded and go to where the truth leads you. And I think that's the ultimate. The ultimate is we want the truth, right? And so the fact that Darwin, who was an atheist and who developed this wonderful, very impactful theory about human understanding of the world, the evolution, 200 years ago, and 200 years later, I discovered the same conundrum, the same problem, that human eye is the weakest point of this evolutionary theory, the complexity of human